Insurin is an app to help educate people newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I met Emma Corbett on the Catalyst Co-Founders program, and she's lived with type 1 diabetes since she was 17 years old. And she was just so frustrated with how to manage her low blood sugar levels. She didn't know where to go for information. She found that when she was diagnosed, there was very little support. You just get sent home with a bunch of leaflets to manage this very complicated condition. So Emma's idea when she was studying user experience design was to design an app to help people with type 1 diabetes be able to find the information they need, personalized to them in a more timely manner. So we have tested our prototype, and we've built our MVP using our Catalyst co-founders' money. Yeah, so we're sort of at that stage now where we just need to do a bit more beta testing, figure out some of the funding as well, and hopefully release it on the App Store in the coming months. I had worked with many startups in London prior to moving to Belfast to start my medical degree. So I just had that interest in emerging technology already. I'd always wanted to co-found a business. I had actually worked as the first employee in a startup, so I was very well versed with being in the startup environment, but had never done it myself. And then with my kind of growing interest in healthcare and medicine, there's so many opportunities for innovation within that industry, I was just naturally drawn to these sort of health tech ideas within co-founders when I joined. I came back into an undergraduate degree as a graduate student, and being in an academic environment wasn't really kind of doing it for me. I really missed that sort of working environment, that entrepreneurship, innovation environment. So when I found out about Catalyst Co-Founders, it was perfect for me because I wanted to co-found a business. I'm not really an ideas person, I'm more of a sort of operations and logistics person. So just being able to get back into that environment that I'd been used to of the sort of startup working world while I was also studying medicine, which fed in very well with wanting to innovate within the healthcare space. It genuinely made me so happy to just be able to do that through Catalyst Co-Founders. And selecting the team as well was quite easy because I'd had a lot of experience in the blockchain world. So some of the more kind of blockchain founders were coming to me during the Catalyst Co-Founders Hothouse wanting me to join their team. But I knew I wanted to focus more on the healthcare space, so that's what I did ultimately when I joined Emma.
What was the experience of finding that co-founder like at the very start, and how have you kind of navigated that relationship over the last couple of years?
It's such an interesting position to be placed in. I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but it's a bit like dating in a way. Dating for a co-founder, because you want to find people that you obviously have to get on well with, but that's so hard to know, especially as our hothouse was over Zoom. So it was a lot of Zoom calls with all the different founders. Yeah, it's just an interesting experience, and I think ultimately it's just a gut feeling in the end. When I spoke to Emma and I met her multiple times, I just felt like there was a right connection there. And then also our skills complemented each other a lot. She didn't really have a lot of the business experience. I didn't have any user experience or user experience design experience or any obviously type 1 diabetes experience. So it worked really well in terms of our skills, and also we just both got along really well.
You are still studying full time, Emma's still working full time. What has it meant to you to be able to take that at your own pace for whenever you want to make that transition into launching the app and taking things further?
I think Catalyst Co-Founders set up a really good routine, as in Monday evenings were your time to work on your company with your team, and that's worked very well ongoing because neither of us are really in a position to work on it in the daytime because I'm studying full-time and Emma's working full-time, but just being able to recognize that you can work on it. You don't have to give up all your weekends to work on your startup. It is quite feasible to do it, a few hours a week in the evening. If you can sort of take it at your own pace. I mean, obviously the more you do, the better, but if there are some weeks where you just need to take a step back, you can do that as well.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about that, because I know there's always a big push to move quickly, get investment quickly, and I understand that that's a really valid and viable route, but more and more through the programme we're seeing people take their time to go full time and taking it at their own pace, and that actually making the step into entrepreneurship a much more accessible one than perhaps if they had to mortgage their house to take the step, and who knows what's going to happen. So it's really, really interesting to reflect on it. I
think that was the great thing about co-founders. It really de-risks that founding journey, because everyone's it seems like such a big deal to start a company, and I think a lot of people are under the impression that they would have to give up something in their life to do that. But the way Catalyst co-founders focuses on all the user experience, testing, reiterating as much as you can, that really, at the end of the program, there was at no point did we feel that if we had to walk away, we hadn't lost anything, Neither of us had quit our jobs or our studies, and we had gained a huge amount of experience along the way. So yeah, just that sort of, just making the ramp up into entrepreneurship a lot easier was so beneficial through the program.
Now, we are really encouraging more females to step into entrepreneurship. We know that that's something that needs a bit of a nudge in the right direction. So we're endeavouring to have more people like yourself come on to the program. Have you, out of interest, have you felt you faced any barriers to entrepreneurship, or have you come across great supports, and that doesn't have to be co-founders, that have really helped you move forward? What's been your experience?
Honestly, I would say I've actually had quite a strong experience with sort of female founding. The first company I joined out of university from my first degree was a female founded blockchain startup. So that was obviously quite technical. But I did definitely get the impression when I was in that company that the kind of surrounding environment wasn't used to women being there. We only had about 3 women in a company of 20 people. So as a result, we got a lot of attention in terms of speaking at different events and being on different panels, and even went to the European Parliament at one stage. So it was, if anything, it was actually kind of beneficial to me in my career to be a woman in tech, because you get the opportunities that perhaps your male colleagues won't get. Now, I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but that's kind of my personal experience. Obviously, I have experienced kind of minor workplace sexism at different work events. I think that's unfortunately a little bit inevitable, but it's all moving in the right direction. I think it's very rare that I feel, that I'm not welcome in the workplace or at events or anything like that just because of being a woman.
Great. I think what it sounds like is you've really leveraged that perhaps uniqueness, particularly with that first startup in that tech space, and monopolised on that where you could, which will hopefully open up a pathway for others to say, oh, okay, that can be me in effect, which is really, really powerful. Now, last question to close us out. If we were to go back 2 years with all the new knowledge that you have now, having gone through another startup process, you're ready to launch hopefully in the coming weeks, what would you tell yourself back at the start? What would you have liked to have known already, or what a skill would you have liked to have already had? You tell me.
I'd say just tell myself to, give it the commitment. You don't have to, as we said earlier, you don't have to sort of do it full time and quit whatever you're doing, but do give it the time and give it that time investment in the beginning. Do everything Catalyst tell you to do. Yes, on the lines along the lines of user research and reiteration, and it does get, I think, a little bit harder as time goes on, because it's always in the back of your mind. It's always something you want to be working on, even when you're not working on it and you're working on other things. So it just takes a bit of stamina. I think in startups there's a bit of over focus on these overnight successes or these fast turnarounds. They were only founded a year ago, now they've raised X million. It doesn't happen like that for everyone. That's actually quite rare, and so you're probably signing up to something that is going to take a long time. I spoke to a founder in the health tech space. It took their startup 10 years to get recognition in the healthcare space. So just go in with the understanding of it might not be an overnight success, and you just need to give it that long-term commitment.